Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 2. Now let's start the fanfic. After the Tengu incident, where Naruto activated his bloodline, Kushina decided that it was time for Naruto and Tasuki to learn about the power of their bloodline. Tasuki managed to activate hers when they were practicing their survival skills and were attacked by a rogue bear. Apparently they activated the eyes, body and chakra-based part of their bloodline. All that was left was the elemental-based ones, and it should activate when they turn 12. Kushina first taught them how to use the eye-based ability, which gave them different types of visions like thermal, night, or combine both into enhance that allows their eyes to zoom in and out like the Byakugan. Based on solid eye in MGS4. Then the body on the other hand was a little difficult because it gave the person the ability to morph certain parts of your body into the appendage of a dragon-like, claws, scales that were stronger than diamond, spikes, wings, and a tail. The chakra-based one gave them a second source of chakra which allowed them to use the dragon art Ryujin techniques which were like ninjutsu, but they used incantations before calling out the name. Maybe I will based on Dragon Slayer magic in Fairy Tail, 6 basics only. Or American Dragon, Jake Long. Sooner or later, they will be learned the main branch or second branch's ability of the dragon bloodline, very soon. Ayane was staying with the Uzumaki family from the request of Ayame and Shiden, who agreed to this, but this didn't please certain members of the council who wanted the girl to be killed. But both Kushina and Shiden stated that no harm will come to Ayane, or else they will be the ones who will die. Kasumi was saddened when she heard that Ayane is no longer a part of the clan, so was her brother, Hayate. She did get to say goodbye to her half-sister and got to meet Naruto, much to Ayane's annoyance because the girl gained a small crush on the blonde when he called her, Sumi-chan, and gave her a hug. Kasumi then told Ayane that their mother told her about her secret but that she didn't care and that she still loved Ayane and that they were family and best friends no matter what. Those words caused Ayane to cry and hug the person that became her first friend. After saying goodbye to Hayate, Shiden gave Ayane scrolls that contained their family's fighting style and ninja arts. After that, she left to live with the Uzumakis. 2 years have passed since Ayane stayed with the Uzumakis. She, Tasuki, Momiji, Kurha, and Kasumi were all best friends now. Too bad for Naruto, because whenever Ayane, Momiji, and Kasumi try to spend some time alone with him, but it would result in the three getting into a glaring contest with each other and Naruto wondering why they always acted this way around him. Naruto tried asking Scherzer Obasan this, but she patted him on the head and told him to ask his mother about it, which he did only for Kushina to stare at him for a while and burst out laughing. Right now Naruto and Ryu were at a lake swimming laps to the other side. Naruto now looked like a younger version of his father due to the fact that his whisker marks were now gone, but were replaced with slitted eyes and fangs that jutted from his upper lip. Ryu's hair was in a ponytail and it stopped near his upper back. Naruto was currently in the lead with Ryu a few inches behind him. Naruto increased his pace and Ryu does the same. When they were close to the other side, Naruto taps the edge of land, turns around and pushes himself forward, while Ryu does the same. The two dragons in training were now shoulder to shoulder as they head to the other side of the lake. Naruto is now ahead of Ryu by a few inches, and when they approach the land, Naruto taps it first and Ryu does the same. As the blonde pulls himself up onto the land as does Ryu. What's the score now, Naruto? Ryu asked while Naruto grabbed 2 towels from a rock and tosses one to Ryu. 52-49. I'm ahead of you by 3. He stated while Ryu grunts and wiping his hair. Say, doesn't your Ka-san have to go to a private summit with the daimyo today? Ryu asked, getting a nod from the blonde who sat on the ground. Yeah, something to do with it of how Konoha interfered in foreign clan affairs and how the village treated me. Naruto replied while Ryu frowned. Do you hold any grudges against that place? He asks while Naruto snorts and places his towel on his shoulders. I could care less about that place right now. Konoha is not my home anymore. The Hayabusa village is. I have friends and family here, and I wouldn't give them up for anything. He stated. Well, accepted one. You mean, Ryu is about to say about of what Naruto was referred to, seeing him nod, sadden, before his eyebrow rose. Yeah, wish I can brought her with me and her parents, before they almost getting involved. Naruto explained. And if I was pulling mind tricks on anyone, that what surprises me, is that they thought you were the Kyuubi's reincarnation. Talk about idiotic. Ryu comment and Naruto scoffs. Please Ryu, even an idiot can tell that I'm not her. For one thing, I don't have fox ears or a tail sprouting from my, and I'm not the size of a mountain. He stated while Kurumi was in his mindscape giggling at what he said. Ryu chuckles at this and speaks up. Let's head back for lunch, Naruto. I'm starting to get hungry. While the blonde nods. Me too. I hope Ayane-chan made fried salmon and spring rolls again. Naruto said along with guest, and Ryu rolls his eyes at his best friend and they head off to the Uzumaki compound. Konohagakure no Sato == Hiruzen Sarutobi was not having a good day. Then again, he hasn't had one since Naruto was taken back to his home. When word got out of Naruto's departure from Konoha, the civilians partied because the demon brat was gone. After that, the civilian and elder council demanded that Hunter Nin be sent out to find and kill the boy and the people that took him, minus one certain blonde hair with a single bang which falls down into her face did care for the boy for saving her daughter. She was frowned for she is not one of them, but Hiruzen refused to because Naruto wasn't a ninja, but a civilian, so he could have left without his approval. But when that was over, Hiruzen announced to the village that the boy they treated like garbage and beat for their petty vengeance was the son of the Yondaime and the last Namikaze. Most of the ninja and civilians were shocked at this, but the ones who held their grudge refused to believe it. The council wanted Hiruzen to send Anbu after the boy and have him return to revive the clan, but once again the man refused to let this happen, infuriating them. Making the single blonde women smirked, for those fools made their mistakes. Since she was friend of a certain red hair woman. Until the rest of the council tell her about, so they knew she wasn't interested. That however wasn't the main problem. An ambassador from the Hayabusa village came to Konoha a few years ago stating that the daimyo and the Rukage are tripling the price for economic goods and technology that went to Fire Country and also cut off the trade for high-ranking missions. The civilian council -1 wanted to know why, and the ambassador only said that you angered the red dragon, which caused the elders and shinobi council to pale because they knew who he was referring to. After that, he got a letter from the fire daimyo, and when he read it, the man was scared for his life. It was due to the fact that the Rukage is resummoning the ninja he hired as bodyguards back to the Hayabusa village from orders of the dragon daimyo, who sent him a letter stating Konoha's charges on the heir of the Uzumaki Namikaze and wanting to have a private summit with him, the Kage, and their advisors, so that they can explain their actions. Hiruzen let out a tiring sigh knowing that Konoha was gonna pay big time for their actions. He was inwardly praying that the Hayabusa village doesn't cut off all ties with them and declare war, because even with their military force back up, they wouldn't stand a chance against the Dragon Nin. Sooner or later, this village will become a shadow of its former self and glory. Not only is their technology more advanced, but their military strength is on par with 3 of the 5 major nations. Kushina was no pushover either. Just like Minato, she had a flee on sight order 2 in the bingo book, and she's the last person you ever want to face in the battlefield. A pissed off Kushina was one thing, but the wrath of an angry mother is another. I'm too old for this shit, he muttered, and that was when the door opened and Kaharu, Homura, and Danzo walked in with frowns on their faces. Sarutobi frowns and looks up at the 3 who have been nothing but trouble since Naruto left, especially Danzo, who wanted Naruto to be a weapon. What do you 3 want? Hiruzen asked as they sat down. We came to talk to you about the summit. Do you intend on having Kushina return the last Namikaze to the village where he belongs? Danzo asked, only to get glared at by Sarutobi. And have Kushina or the fire daimyo raise the village to the ground? Are you trying to destroy us, Danzo? I will do no such thing. He replied only for Danzo's frown to deepen. There must be some way for us to turn this situation over. Homura stated only for Hiruzen to rub his temples. There isn't, you fool. Kushina and the Dragon Daimyo have more evidence on us than we do of them. The Fire Daimyo is not happy with us right now, and it is because of our actions that he has lost half of his bodyguards. He stated only for Danzo to scoff. And what is wrong with our ninja taking their spots as his bodyguards? Danzo asks. Hiruzen looks at him like he's stupid. Danzo, the Dragon Nin and the Hayabusa village have been around longer than any other has, and they have been allies with the former daimyo of our country. Not to mention their military power is equal to that of 3 of the 5 major elemental countries. Do you honestly think we can take on a village that powerful? We may be the strongest village in the elementals, but they are the strongest non-elemental village. He stated, and Danzo just stays silent and looks at the ground. We can't afford to go to war with them. We lost the Uchiha military police force 3 years ago. That alone has crippled our forces. The daimyo will cut our military and economic funding. If not, he will cut ties with us, making us a target for other villages like Iwa. Kaharu stated, but was also cursing inwardly. She never liked Kushina or her ways of ruling a village, thinking that she was a novice trying to fill the shoes of a master when it came to leading. We only have ourselves to blame for not following Minato's dying wish. If we had, we wouldn't be in this situation right now, would we? Hiruzen asked with statement as the 3 look away from him, not wanting to admit that he was right. Hiruzen looks up at the clock on the wall and gets up, putting his hat on. The summit is in Tetsu no Kuni, Iron Country. I'm leaving the Inoshika Cho trio in charge until we return, but I'm going to say this one time and one time only. Keep your mouths shut and speak when I tell you to. He said in a tone that stated he was serious, which caused them cringe at his gaze. Hayabusa village . Kushina, along with her 3 advisors Nishiki, Aizen, Kara and 8 Anbu were at the entrance of the Hayabusa village with a carriage waiting for them. She was wearing her cage hat and robes, and strapped to her back was a Nodashi. Standing before her was Joe, who was wearing his shinobi uniform. I'm leaving you in charge while I'm gone, Joe. Naruto, Ayane, and Tasuki will be staying with you and your family until I return. She said, getting a nod from the man. Hi. Good luck and be safe, Kushina. He says, and she smiles. I will, trust me. When I say, I'm gonna give the old monkey and those buzzards hell. She declared while her advisors chuckle while entering the carriage. Joe chuckles as she enters the carriage and the Anbu flank it. The driver of the carriage motions the horse to move, and it does. As Joe watches as the carriage disappears from his view, and then walks off with the 2 Anbu that were flanking him to the Dragon Tower. Naruto and Ryu were now fully dressed in their training gi and were now heading to the Uzumaki compound to eat lunch. After they removed their sandals, Naruto opened the slide door and they entered the compound, only for the scent of fried salmon and spring rolls to hit their noses. Naruto walks in the dining room, only to see Ayane and Tasuki setting the table. Ayane turned her head to see Naruto and Ryu entering. Hey Naruto-kun, Ryu-san. Ayane greet while the 2 smile back. Hey Ayane-chan, Imouto. Naruto replied as they sat down and started to eat their lunch. After they finished eating lunch, Naruto, Ayane and Tasuki went to get their gear packed and headed over to the Hayabusa compound. 2 days later. After taking a boat to the elemental nation, Kushina, her advisors, and the Dragon Anbu were walking through the forest heading for Tetsu no Kuni, Land of Iron, until one of the Anbu spoke up. Rukage-sama. The one with the blue dragon mask said, and Kushina nods. I know. All of you step aside. I'll deal with them personally. She replied with ordered and tilts her hat down. The Anbu and advisors stepped to the side, and that was when 10 nin wearing cloaks and blank masks that had the kanji, nay, on it leapt out of the trees with their ninjatus drawn and descending towards Kushina with the intent to kill her. They were Root Anbu. Kushina lifts her arm up and taps a seal that was on it. It glowed blue for a while and then in a puff of smoke a silver-bladed katana with a deep red hilt, black diamond patterns, and a black guard appeared in her right hand. She then channels her wind chakra into her blade and with great speed and precision, she performs a series of slashes, releasing small crescent-shaped wind blades at the root ninja who barely have any time to evade it and are all struck by the attack. Blood spurts from their injuries and some lose their limbs or are killed instantly. The ones that survive crash to the ground, screaming out in pain and clutching either their wounds or their lost limbs. She walks over to one of them and turns her blade into a stabbing position and runs it through his skull, killing him instantly. She removes the blade from the skull and swipes the blood and brain matter off with a flick of her wrist. That was when a barrage of kunai and daggers headed straight for her. Kushina grabbed one of the fallen bodies by the collar and used it as a shield to take the attack. That was when her eyes grew cold and glared at the now charging root members. Fools, she said with a bad mood as she dropped the body. A few minutes later. The bloody and dismembered bodies of the root Anbu were scattered across the open field and Kushina was wiping the blood of her blade, the Aka Arashi, red storm, with the clothes until the blade was clean. Her advisors walked forward and looked at the scene. That was an interesting display of carnage, Kushina. Aizen stated while Kushina leaned over and ripped the mask off one of the root's heads. She then glared at the mask with a nay, and crushed it with her bare hand. That Ing war hawk. She snarled out and looked at the Anbu who were preparing to burn the bodies. Don't burn them. Seal them up in a scroll. She ordered and the men nodded. We're gonna return them to their rightful owner. As they started to seal the bodies away. Tetsu no Kuni . Kushina and her group have made it to Tetsu no Kuni, a snow-covered country with a large range of mountains and 3 large mountain tops that were called Sanro, 3 wolves due to their appearance being similar to a 3-headed wolf. Kushina and the advisors were wearing cloaks with the Anbu flanking them. They managed to make it to the compound in Tetsu and they saw 3 men garbed in samurai robes, scarves, and katanas strapped to their sides standing at the door. The one on the right is a bald man with a scar over his right eye and a dragon tattoo above his other eye. The other one is a balding man with thick eyebrows and a scar on the right side of his head. The one in the middle had a long black beard and mustache, long black hair, and wore some type of headgear that was wrapped in clothing. They were Mifune, Okasuke, and Yurikaku. They all walked up and bowed at the general of the samurai army as does he. I welcome you and the others to Tetsu no Kuni Rukage-sama. The Dragon Daimyo and Fire Daimyo are inside waiting room. The only ones who haven't appeared are the Hokage and his advisors. He informed and she nods. Also, try not to start a conflict, Rukage. I want this meeting to go without confrontation on either side. He stated. Kushina nods and walks into the waiting room with her advisors and men and sees Hiroshima Genryusai, the Fire Lord along with his samurai and Seijuro Hiko. Hiroshima also had the build of a warrior and had a scar on the left side of his face. He wore what looked like a red battle kimono with samurai armor and a sword strapped to the left side of his belt. When they met in the middle, the ruler of Fire Country approached them and bow and they did the same. Kushina-san, Seijuro-san. It's been a while since we met. Hiroshima and Seijuro nods. Indeed it has been a while. Unfortunately I'm not glad we have to meet like this due to the issues our villages are having with each other. Seijuro stated while Hiroshima frowns and nods at this. Yes, I too not happy with the situation, but I am sure we can solve this problem and I do believe that my village and the current leader of the village are responsible for all of this, and trust me when I say when this meeting is over. I will be having a chat with that man and deal with his council. Hiroshima stated. That was when Hiruzen, his advisors, and his Anbu bodyguards walked in. Kushina looked over at them and her eyes went from kind to cold and emotionless. Sarutobi saw the look in her eyes and couldn't help but shiver inwardly. Danzo was cursing inwardly because he sent his route to try and slow her down or at least kill one of her advisors. Seijuro just greeted them with a nod and Kushina walked away from them. Hiroshima gave Sarutobi a look that meant he was gonna deal with him and Konoha after this. Mifune stated that he would evaluate the meeting until said leaders have made their final decisions. The Kages and their advisors were sitting on opposite sides along with the leaders of their country. The Anbu and samurai were hidden in the shadows and watching out for intruder or if their leaders got into a situation with each other. Kushina and Hiruzen set their cage hats down on the table. Mifune sat down in the far end of the table and spoke. Now that everyone is present for this private summit, we can begin discussing the issues that are causing conflict between the leaders and their respective country. Mifune states. That was when Seijuro Hiko spoke up. If I may, Mifune-san, I'd like one of Kushina's advisors to state the charges she has placed over Konohagakure. The man said and Mifune nods. Very well. The samurai general replied and looks over at Aizen, who was Kushina's head advisor. Councilman Aizen, would you read the charges? Mifune asks and gets a nod from the man, who reaches into his robe and pulls out a scroll, unravels it and starts to read it. The Godime Rukage of the Hayabusa village, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze and the daimyo of Ryu no Kuni Seijuro Hiko 13th. Find the Sandaime Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi and Konohagakure no Sato guilty for performing these actions. Lying to a foreign leader of the death of one of her children who happens to be the heir of two clans, keeping the heir in a hostile environment and denying the heir of his birthright. Aizen stated while Kushina, who had her hands under the table, was clenching her fists in fury while her eyes remained cold. Mifune then looks over at the dragon daimyo and asked. Do you agree with the charges that were stated, Seijuro-sama? With the man nod his head. Yes, I do. The daimyo stated, making the elders frown and Hiruzen to look at the table with shame. Does the Hokage agree with the charges placed against him? Mifune asked in court and the old man nods. Yes, I do. He said, making his teammates and Danzo look at him in shock. Hokage-sama, you can't be sorry, Homura stated, only for the professor to glare at him, which caused him to shut up. Mifune then looks over at Hiroshima, who had his eyes closed. What is your opinion on this, Hiroshima-sama? Mifune asked the man, who opens his deep brown eyes and speaks. I would like to hear Konoha's side and let the leader of the village explain his actions against an allied nation. Hiroshima says as he looks at Hiruzen, who lets out a sigh and looks up at them. Daimyo-sama, I honestly thought I was following the wishes of my successor, before he sealed the fox away into his son. I denied him of his heritage, because of Iwa hating the man for what he did during the war. I made a law that stated the younger generation wouldn't know of Naruto's condition and warned the older generation who hated the fox that it was an S-class secret punishable by death. He explained his reason, but Kushina scoffed. Looks to me that it's how that turned out, Sandaime-sama. But that's not what I'm pissed off about. Tell your daimyo, why you lied to me about my son's death. She said in a cold tone that made the man cringe. Kushina, Sarutobi started to say until she growled. That's Rukage-sama to you, ya old monkey, now answer my question. She demanded. I did it because he was the last male Namikaze, and Minato would have wanted him to stay in the village where he can revive his clan. He said, only to instantly regret it when she smashed her fist into the table, causing the Anbu and samurai appear ready to defend their leaders until the daimyos waved them off and they disappeared into the shadows. Kushina's eyes were now a golden yellow color with a tint of red around her slitted pupils. You son of a bitch. How dare you say Minato would have wanted Naruto to stay in the village to revive his clan? That's what you bastards want. She yelled while a bead of sweat appeared on Hiruzen's brow, and that was when Koharu spoke up. Please calm down, Rukage. Koharu started to say until Kushina aimed her glare at the old woman. I wasn't taking to you, ya ancient relic. So shut the up. The redhead yelled, making Koharu shut up, and Kushina looked back at Hiruzen. Give me one reason. Give me one reason why I shouldn't kill you four right here, and now, and then have my army head to Konoha and reduce it to ashes, you traitorous dogs. She snarled out as she removed her fist, leaving an imprint in the desk while Hiruzen, Koharu, and Homura had a look of horror and fear on their faces. After all my village has done for you fools, when the Shidaime Hokage first created that village, you go and stab me, my village, and my country in the back just because my Sochi was the last Namikaze. Have you forgotten that he is also my son and the heir to the Uzumaki clan? She roared out while the daimyos and Mifune just watched the event, as did Kushina's advisors, who almost felt sorry for the old man. Almost was the keyword. Kushina, I was only doing what was best for the boy, and for you, and I couldn't allow you to take the container of the most powerful Biju out of Konoha. He would have been a danger to you and your village. Sarutobi tried to explain, but this only pissed Kushina further. The killer intent she was releasing frightened even Mifune and the hidden Anbu and samurai. Whoever said hell hath no fury like a woman scorned wasn't lying. Nishiki and Aizen thought. And that justifies your actions in separation a mother from her child. I can't believe I'm hearing this from you of all people, Sarutobi. What was best for my son? He told me how you would just sit in your seat and let those idiots beat him near an inch of his life. He also had to eat food out of garbage cans, because he was always kicked out of restaurants and grocery stores. Garbage cans, you fool. How could you do this to me and Minato? Kushina yelled out while the man looked away in shame. Hiroshima's eyes widened in shock and then glared at the four. How dare you do this to me, my family, my country, and my children? I consider your actions inexcusable, as do the ninja and civilians of my village. The dragon daimyo also agrees with me, and we demand retribution from your village. Refusal to do so will be the complete termination of our treaty and an all-out war with us. She finished while Hiruzen paled at the threat, as did the elders. Retribution it is, Rukage-sama. What is it that you want from us? Hiruzen asked, knowing that if he refused, the fire daimyo will either erase the village with his samurai army or cut his ties with him and watch as Konoha is razed to the ground by Kushina and her forces. 350 million ryo for financial retribution to the Uzumaki and Namikaze clan, the execution of those who assaulted my son, as well as 30 A and S ranked jutsus from the cage vault. She said, and was inwardly smirking at their shocked looks. I object. Danzo yelled out. Kushina, the demands are. Hiruzen started to say. Are what? Too much. It's either that or the liquidation of Konohagakure, Sandaime-sama. Kushina replied. We can't pay that amount of money, and the execution of the ones who attacked the boy are too numerous. We could end up crippling our village. Homura stated while Kushina just shrugs and looks at her nails. Not my problem, advisor. Kaharu then speaks out. You're being unreasonable, Rukage. She yelled, getting a smirk from Kushina. Payback's a bitch, isn't it, elder? She said, making the woman sneer at her. This is blasphemy. Daimyo-sama, don't you think she's being unreasonable? Danzo asks, only for the man to look at him. Actually, Danzo, I don't. Hiroshima said, making the four pale. The ruler of Hai no Kuni was agreeing with the foreigner side. But sir, she. Danzo started to say until the man silenced him with a hand gesture. Kushina-sama, I agree with the financial retribution as well as the jutsu list from the cage vault. But I wish you would reconsider having 85% the village executed. Hiroshima says, and Kushina looks at the man for a while and lets out a sigh. Fine. But in return, I demand 10A and 10S ranked mission scrolls from them. Kushina said, and the elders opened and closed their mouths with no words coming out. Very well. Hiroshima states and looks at Seijuro, who nods back at the agreement. Sarutobi sadly nods back while the elders look at the table with frowns on their face. Oh, and Danzo. Kushina called the War Hawk, while the man looks up only to see a scroll tossed at him and he catches it. He opens it and a pile of corpses with blank masks with the kanji, nay, on them appeared in a bloody pile, making the man's single eye widened, as did the others. The next time you want to send your drones to kill me, make sure they're at least cage level. Oh, and I want double of what I requested. You can thank Danzo here for that. She said with an evil grin on her face, making them a white as a sheet of paper, and after that, Hiruzen glared hard at the now scared man, releasing murderous intent on him, and then Hiroshima spoke up. I will personally make sure that the retributions are accounted for, Kushina-sama, Seijuro-sama. He said, getting a nod from them. As they started to file out, after the summit is adjourned, Sarutobi looked at Kushina. Kushina cut him off. Save it, old man. I don't want to hear your piss-poor apologies. You're a disgrace to your village, your clan, to your predecessors, and my husband. I'm gonna say this one time and one time only. Keep your counsel on a leash, because you've got one time to piss me off, one time to try anything against my children, and one time make me regret sparing your village, and not even the daimyo will stop me from sending my entire force to your village and wiping it off the face of the earth. She then got in his face and gave him a look that would make the Shinigami proud. I will make you watch as I destroy everything you and the former cages worked hard to create, and then I will kill you and mount your head on my wall. She said in a cold and dark tone while her eyes flashed golden yellow for a few seconds while the Sandaime flinched and gulped. A day later. After the eventful meeting, Seijuro went back to the capital of Ryu no Kuni, and Kushina returned to the village. The fire daimyo had his messenger send the money as well as the jutsu and mission scrolls she wanted for retribution. The civilian council, -1, were not happy about it and wanted the man to reconsider it, but Hiroshima ignored their protests. Making a single councilwoman happy for her friend pull off. She refused to pay for what they deserved, before the fire daimyo called her and gave a letter, that turns out, it was a secret message for Kushina. She appreciates him and Kushina. Right now, Kushina had decided to take a couple of days off to spend with her children, due to all the stress Konoha has put her through. Kushina, her kids, Ayane, Ryu, Kasumi, Momiji, Kurha, and Scherzer were at the lake relaxing. Kushina and Scherzer were lying on their backs on towels, sunbathing in their bathing suits while the kids were in the lake splashing and laughing. Scherzer looks over at Kushina and speaks up. Kushina, have you considered getting remarried or dating again? She asked, getting a raised eyebrow from the woman. Since when did my personal life interest you, Scherzer? She asked, only for the woman to sigh. Come on, Kushina, I know Minato was your first love and you miss him, but you should move on and find someone else. Minato would want you as well as your children to be happy. She stated, and Kushina sighed. I don't know if I can, Scherzer. I can't have any more children, plus I'm in my early 30s. There aren't a lot single 30-year-old males in the village. She stated. Scherzer frowns, but then a grin appears on her face. What about Rikamaru? She asked, and a tint of pink and make it red appears on the redhead's face. Since few friends called Arashi as a nickname. His real name is Arashi Rikamaru Kazama, the Sotaicho of the Anbu. What about him? Kushina asked, only for Scherzer's grin to widen. Oh, come now, Kushina, you should ask him out on a date. She insisted, making the woman sit up and look at her. Scherzer, she exclaimed while Scherzer blinks. Just asks the man out on a date, Shina. You need a man in your life. Naruto and Tasuki likes him. Just give it a shot. She says while Kushina blushes and looks at the sky for a while and then sighs. Fine. I'll ask him tomorrow, since he's off that day. She replied, and Scherzer grins at her best friend. Just don't blow it or you'll never hear the end of it from me. She said, and Kushina's brow twitches. After that, everyone left the lake. Kushina, Naruto, and Tasuki were heading towards the compound until they heard a deep masculine voice. Yo, Kushina. The three turn around to see a man with long white spiky hair that was tied into a ponytail, and on his head was a headband with the kanji for you oil on it. He wore a green ninja gi with a mesh shirt underneath it as well as a red vest and geta sandals. He was Jiraiya, the Gamma Sennin and one of the Sannin. Kushina saw Jiraiya and blinked in confusion. Jiraiya, what are you doing here? Did Sarutobi send you here? She asked as she narrowed her eyes at the man who blinked in confusion. No, he didn't. He said, looks at Naruto, and his eyes widen as he looks at Naruto. Kushina, is that He started to say only for Kushina to nod. Yes, Jiraiya, this is your so-called dead godson. She answered, and the man's eyes widen in shock and then they narrow. I'm gonna beat the shit out of Sarutobi. He said, scowl, and Kushina blinks at the man. So he lied to you too, right? She asked only for the man to nod, and Naruto looks up at his mother. Hey Ka-san, who's he? He asked. That signals Jiraiya was about to do his introduction, when Kushina interrupted him. He's your Kyofu godfather, Sochi. Jiraiya, the Gamma Sennin. He's also the man who trained your father. She answered only for Jiraiya's head and shoulders to slump. Kushina, you interrupted my cool entrance. He whines while Tasuki giggles and Naruto sweat dropped and looked back at his mother. Are you sure he trained San? He looks like a goofball and a pervert. Naruto stated only for Jiraiya to face fault and get up to glare at the boy. I am not a pervert. I'm a super pervert, he proclaimed as he puffed his chest up. Naruto's brow twitches at his proclamation. That not something you should be proud of and state, Ero Sennin. Naruto replied, and the man face faulted once again. Kushina bit her lip, tried to stop from laughing while Jiraiya sat up and glared at boy once more. Don't call me that, Jiraiya yelled while Kushina laughed as did with Tasuki. Just like his father. He called me that too, and now his brat is calling me that. He ranted until he calmed down and spoke up. Anyways, Kushina, the reason I came here is because I would like to train the kids for a couple of years and teach them some of my personal jutsu. Jiraiya replied what Kushina looks at him for a while and then speaks up. I don't mind. Besides, you have a lot of catching up to do with your godson, but if you turn him into a pervert, I will make Tsunade's beatings look like an act of mercy once I'm through with you. The redhead Kage said in a sweet, but dangerous tone, making the man sweat bullets. I won't. Jiraiya said nervously and mentally add, yet, at the same time. Naruto looks up at his mother again to speak. Is he really that strong, Ka-san? He asked, and Jiraiya gives the boy a look of shock and hurt. Gaki, you mock my skills as a ninja. I'll have you know that I am without a doubt one of the strongest ninja in the world. Heck, I could give your mom here a run for her money. Jiraiya said with a grin on his face, making Naruto's and Suki's eyes widen. Ka-san, can he really take you on? Tasuki asked since her mother is the strongest ninja in the village, and Kushina nods while rubbing the back of her head. Yes, he can, Tasuki-chan. I remember all those spars we had with him and your san. He actually knocked me out in our first fight. She said while Jiraiya smirked at her. Sure did. You were getting arrogant and cocky, so I had to knock you down a couple of pegs. The Toad Sage replied. Naruto, however, was scratching the back of his head. Why is it that some of the most powerful people in the world are weird, Tasuki? He asks his twin, who shrugs while the two adults laugh at them. 4 years later. At an empty restaurant near the borders of Kaminari no Kuni, Lightning Country, a manager named Taro was currently being harassed by a group of yakuzas who had bats, clubs, and a few had guns with them. Any series of MP5KS, Uzis, M4s, AKs, M9s, Glocks, Desert Eagles, and Sig Saucers, etc., installing dot sights or ACOG scopes or laser sights. That's right, mates, there are guns in this story since I combined the Naruto world with the Ninja Gaiden world by using the Call of Duty style with customized arsenals and badass StarCraft weapon selectable style, so I will be had Sonya select those guns plus combat knives and ninja blade style too, and advised you guys not flame me, cause this is fanfiction, fans. Taro was currently gulping as one yakuza named Maki, who was wearing an all-black suit with brown spiky hair, a tattoo on the right side of his face, and holding a bat, walks towards the man with the bat resting on his shoulders. Look. I already said I didn't need protection from your boss, so please leave. He begged only for the leader to snort and then kicked a table over with his foot, making the man whimper. Kojira-sama didn't ask if you wanted protection. You're getting it and will pay us for it or else. He said as he points his bat at the manager's face. I don't want your protection and I'm not paying you for it. Taro yelled and Maki snatched the man up by the collar and slammed him into the wall, getting a cry of pain from the man. He drops his bat on the ground and pulls a switchblade out of his back pocket and points the sharp steel at his neck. Either you accept his offer or you're gonna have a bigger smile on your, he started to say until his body jerked and he looked down to see a knife in his torso and blood drips from his gut. He drops the switchblade and Taro pulls the blade out and kicks the man in the face, sending him flying into a table, which shatters. The others had shocked looks on their faces while Taro flicks the blood off the knife. Aniki. A Yakuza grunt cried out and aimed his 9mm pistol, M9, at the manager. You son of a, he said until he was hit by a barrage of shuriken that flew from the ceiling. 3 hit him in the chest and torso, 2 hit him in the back and 1 hits him in the back of his skull. The man dies before he hits the ground, and the other gangsters freak out at this. What the hell is going? Another one said only for his head to be looped off by a flash of silver and blood squirts from his neck and sprays everywhere. Taro had a smirk on his face and pulled 4 throwing knives out of his sleeves and throws them at the rest who had barely any time to react. 3 were killed instantly, the others cried out in pain. A redhead appears between 2 of them and plunges her twin kodachis into their spines, killing them instantly. She was wearing a whole-body jumpsuit that was red and black with a dragon on the back and had arm guards on her arms and fingerless gloves. She also wore a black face mask that covered half of her face. The front part of her suit was slightly unzipped, revealing a mesh shirt. A ninja leaps wearing an all-whole-body black outfit with a headpiece that resembled a dragon's crest falls from the ceiling with his blade, Shinken no Ruken divine dragon sword, drawn and performs a diagonal slash down on one Yakuza and vivisects another, separating his upper and lower body. After the small massacre, Taro turns into a puff of smoke, and when it clears, a 14-year-old male with wild blonde spiky hair, Yondaimi's hairstyle, and wore a deep blue and silver bodysuit with a face mask, arm guards and fingerless gloves. Strapped to his back and belt were Ruken and Shikan no Ryujin, dragon sword and fang of the dragon god, his family's heirlooms. Well, that was fun. Naruto said admitted and walks over to a bleeding Maki who was trying to stop the bleeding from his torso with his hands and Naruto grabs the man by his hair and lifts him up to his eye level. Look, you're gonna die soon, so why not tell us where your boss is? He asked only for the man to be silent until Naruto punched him in his bleeding torso and blood squirts out of it. Maki screams out on pain as Naruto dug his fist into the injury. You're only prolonging your death, you fool. Tell me where he's hiding and I'll make you death quick and painless. He says as he applies more pressure. Maki had enough and spilled his guts and answered. Okay, I'll talk. Kojira-sama is staying at a 5-star hotel called the White Cloud, in the upper district where he's being guarded by his personal guards and some ninja with black spider symbols he hired. He's staying in the penthouse on the right side of the building. Thank you. Naruto appreciated and the blade came out on his wrist and slits the man's throat in a quick manner, killing him instantly. You know, you always likes to play around with Assassin's Creed, right? Ryu comment. Since Naruto started to like to play that game, Assassin's Creed, since it's a new game this year past, since the blacksmiths insisted to build the same weapons as the game. It's now the futures comes to the past and there's modern computers. I know. Naruto replied as his hidden blade slides back. Ryu pulls out a scroll and seals the bodies in it. I'm pretty sure some of these guys have bounties on their heads, especially the one with the tattoo. He states. Tsuki then sheathes her kodachis and walks over to Naruto and Ryu. The personal bodyguards should be no problem, but the black spider nin will be a problem. We need to get rid of them first. Tsuki stated about the arch-enemies of the dragon nin. Naruto nods in agreement. Yes, we'll deal with them first before we go for his personal guards. Once we deal with the guards, we'll deal with Kojira. He said, getting a nod from them and the shunshin out of the restaurant. White Cloud penthouse . Inside the penthouse was a bulky man wearing a purple and black suit. He had black hair that was slicked back with a few gray strands in it and a scare on the left side of his head. His name is Kojiro Sosuke, a crime boss of the Yakuza gang. He was also a former cutthroat and hitman of the group until he had an incident when facing an assassin that was after the bounty on his head. He was now sitting in a chair, drinking red wine out of wine glass. He was waiting for Maki and his group to come back with the protection money. If not, that the manager's head. Outside his room were his guards who were wearing black suits with white dress shirts and black ties armed with SMGs with less or few reflex and laser sights, and 4 grips. The others were patrolling the upper room. On the roof were 8 black spider nin equipped with katanas, wakizashis, axes, and gauntlets. They were watching the rooftops and looking out for any ninja. Meanwhile, 3 figures were watching. Tasuki was crouching on a telephone pole with a pair of goggles and zoomed in on the rooftop to see 8 spider nin patrolling the rooftop of the penthouse. She then removes goggles from her face and leaps off of the pole and lands into an alley. Ryu appears from out of the shadows and approaches her. We got a total of 12 guards patrolling the upper room where the penthouse is. Judging by their outfits, they're probably equipped with firearms. Ryu informed before asked, "What about the rooftop?" "There are a total of 8 spider nin patrolling the roof." Tasuki states and Ryu nodded. A beeping sound comes from his comm link and he clicks the headpiece that was in his ear. "Yeah, there's a total of 8. Naruto, should I handle them?" Ryu asked. "Okay, I'll handle the spider nin, and you and Tasuki will handle the guards." "Okay, I'm about to heading there," he replied and clicks the earpiece to turn it off. "Meet Naruto at the 10th window on the northeastern side of the building and he'll meet you there," Ryu said. Tasuki nods and shunshuns out of the alley and Ryu merges with the shadows and disappears. White cloud penthouse rooftop . A black spider nin just got finished sharpening his sword and was about to rejoin the patrol group until he was hit in the skull by 3 shuriken. His body jerks back and he hits the ground with a thud. Ryu appears in a crouching position and pulls out an exploding tag, placing it on the man's body. He then grabs the spider nin and flings him over an air duct. The body lands in between a small group of spider nin who jump up with their weapons ready. They approach the body carefully and see a tag on the dead spider nin's body. Ryu was behind the air duct and has his hand in a ram seal. Kai. He mutters and channels chakra into the tag, which glows yellow then explodes into fire. 3 of them end up being set ablaze and were screaming and rolling around the ground. The other 2 had 3rd-degree burns on their arms and legs, trying to put the flames out. A black blur was heading towards them and when one of them looked up, he was decapitated by a silver flash. It was Ryu with Shinken no Ruken drawn. The headless spider nin falls to the ground and the others rush at the dragon nin. Ryu pulls out 5 shuriken and flings them at the 2. One deflects them with his gauntlets and swipes at Ryu's head. Ryu sidesteps the attack and the other spider nin does a horizontal slash with his wakizashi. Ryu blocks it with his blade and roundhouse kicks the nin on the back of his head, making him stumble backwards. Ryu then spins and cuts off the man's right leg and he hits the ground clutching his missing limb in pain as it bled out while the young dragon stabs him in the head, killing him instantly. 4 more nin appear around him with their weapons ready to kill. Ryu looks around and then twirls his blade twice and gets into a kenjutsu stance. The 10th floor . The bodyguards heard the explosion and run around in different directions looking for the source. Naruto appears in the air with Ruken drawn and hands. He rushes at 2 of them who were firing their 9mm and .45 ACP guns at Naruto who was deflecting the bullets with his blade. The guns went blank and started to click, shocking the bodyguards who tried to reload the clips. Naruto leaps into the air and performs a spin kick on the one from the right. The impact sends him flying into a wall and his skull hits it, leaving an imprint and falls to the ground unconscious. When Naruto lands, the other one tosses his gun to the side and pulls out an electric tonfa. He charges at Naruto, who sheathes his sword and gets into a CQC stance. The guard charges at Naruto and takes a swing at his midsection. Naruto sidesteps and grabs the man's arm. He twists it hard, hearing the snapping of bone. The guard cries out in pain as he drops the electric tonfa, only for Naruto to grab it and strikes him in the torso with it, making the guard keel over from the electric currents running through his body. Naruto then lets him go and strikes him in the back of the neck and he topples over. He tosses it aside and sees his sister kick one guard into a wall and then leaps over one that tried to strike her from behind. She grabs his head, flips over and pushes her body forward, flinging the man into another group of guards. She then throws a kunai, which had an exploding tag on it, at the ceiling. When it hits, she performs a ram seal saying, "Kai," and it explodes. Large chunks of debris fall and the guards scream as they are crushed under the rubble. Inside the penthouse, Kojiro had a gold-plated Desert Eagle Mark 19 in his hand and was heading for the elevator as he heard the sounds of guns firing, blades slicing into flesh, the sounds of screaming and explosions shaking the ground. He had a limp in his leg and was using his cane to help him move forward. He was now at the elevator and about to reach for the button until he heard a crashing sound and saw one of his guards come flying through the destroyed door and sliding across the floor and stops, having a bloody, swollen, and broken face. "Shit," Kojiro muttered and reaches for the button again, only for a barrage of kunai and shuriken to come flying at him. He curses once again and barely avoids them. They destroy the panel as sparks buzz around the destroyed elevator panel. He aims his gun at the entrance and starts to fire at the smoky entrance. Little did he know that Naruto was already in the room on a metal beam with a kusarigama in his hands, the one from Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2. He twirls the end that had the metal spiked ball in it and then he flings it at the man's hand that had the Desert Eagle in it and knocks it out. "What the?" he exclaimed as the gun goes scattering across the room. He turns his head to see Naruto on the beam twirling the sickle end. Kojiro tries to run away, but when he does, then he cries out in pain as the sickle is embedded into his spinal column. Blood spurted from his injury and he fell down, losing all feeling in his lower body. Naruto yanks the sickle out and grabs the handle, swiping the blood off of it and seals it into a scroll. He then lands onto the floor and walks over to the man who was crawling on his belly with his hands trying to reach for his gun, but Naruto plants his foot on his back and he screams out as his spine snaps. Naruto pulls out his blade and places it in a stabbing position near the back of his head. "Any last words, Yakuza?" Naruto says in monotone while Kojiro snarls and clenches his fist. "You," was all he said. Squelch. Asterisk. The blade was embedded into his skull, killing him instantly. A puddle of blood started to form around the man's body and Naruto removes the tip out of his head and swiped the blood and brain matter away. That was when the body of a spider nin came crashing through the ceiling and hits the ground hard, creating a small crater. Naruto looks up and sees Ryu leap from the hole in the ceiling and into the penthouse. He kicks the dead body away and walks towards the blonde dragon who was sheathing his sword. "Mission accomplished," Naruto said while Ryu lets out a sigh of relief. "Finally," a feminine voice exclaimed. Tsuki was walking into the room dragging the unconscious body of a Yakuza guard. "We managed to take care of all the Yakuza crime lords in Kaminari Lightning. Not that it was tough or anything, but these guys were pushovers," she said while Ryu nods. "You would think they would at least hired some Misen Nin to protect them, or at least more Black Spider Ninja," Ryu said in a bored tone while Naruto chuckles. "Well, we can finally go home after hunting crime lords for 6 months," he commented and they both nod. "Come on. We need to get out of her because I am not paying for the damage," he says, and the three shunshin away. Naruto, Ryu, and Tsuki were used to this kind of thing. They got used to killing and fighting and they started when they were 12 years old. They have killed crime lords, corrupt politics, gangsters, pirates, and even stopped the smuggling of drugs and illegal weapons. After collecting the bounty on the Yakuza crime lord, they headed back to the Hayabusa village via Dragon Summon. Naruto, Ryu, and Tasuki each signed the summoning contract for the legendary dragons since it was their birthright, and Naruto was given Rukin and Shakan no Ryujin when he turned 13, and Kushina gave Tasuki her blade, aka Arashi. When the dragon landed near the compound, Ryu left to head to his family's compound. Naruto created a shadow clone and had it take the mission report to the Dragon Tower. After being greeted by the servants, Naruto and Tasuki went to their separate rooms. Naruto closed the door and removed his ninja outfit and gear, wearing a mesh shirt and boxers under it. He places his blades on the sword stand and then grabs a pair of shorts, boxers and a towel and heads to his private bathhouse. After taking his bath, he dries himself off and puts on his boxers and shorts while leaving his well-toned muscular body shirtless. He walks towards his bed, ready to lay down on it until he felt a pair of soft feminine arms wrap around his waist and felt a body press up against his back. A smile appears his face as Ayane's hands travel across his chest and abs, and after doing that for a while she latches her hands around his waist and inhales the scent of his hair. "Hello Ayane Haim," he said while she giggles and kisses him on the cheek. "Hello Naruto-kun. I missed you," she said. They walk towards his bed. Ayane removes her hands from his waist and Naruto turns around to see a smiling Ayane. She was now 5 feet 3 and had a figure any girl would kill to have. She had clear violet hair that stopped to her shoulders and ruby red eyes. She is wearing a gray sleeveless shirt that hugged her body and showed off her curves and C-cupped breasts, and wore a pair of short purple shorts that showed off her flawless legs and hugged her hips. "I missed you too, Tenshi," he says, getting a small blush from her, and she kisses him on the lips. They stop and Naruto goes and lays his back on his soft comfy bed. Ayane joins him but lays next to him and rests her head on his chest. He wraps his arms around her and pulls her closer to him. He then closes his eye while Ayane smiles at this and does the same. Ever since Naruto saved her from the Red Tengu, Ayane has become more open with Naruto. She even cried for him when he told her about his life in Konoha and that he was the container of the Kyuubi no Yoko. Kasumi, Momiji, and Kurha did the same when he told them, and it resulted in him being hugged to death by the crying girls. As he told them about, he had met a single girl before she took away from him by his mother. Since the girls told them her name, he told them the answer when the time came. So, they gave him a hint by Cherry. Just as Naruto told them about his first friend, he told them when the time comes. After living with Naruto and his family for almost 6 years, Ayane's feelings for Naruto went from a crush to actual love. At first she was afraid that he would reject her, but surprisingly, he stated that he had feelings for her too. Now Naruto earned her trust to give and answer the hint of the cherry, that made her surprised that it was a name, so Ayane will keep the secret for time being. They then became a couple, which seemed to hurt Momiji and Kasumi since they also developed feelings for the blonde but wanted Ayane to be happy since it wouldn't be fair to her since they had a lot in common. Surprisingly, Naruto got out of his denseness when it came to girls when he got older. Actually, Tasuki had to literally beat it out of him, as did Jiraiya, who stated that both he and his father were blockheads when it came to women. Kushina and Kurumi Kyuubi had never laughed so hard when they watched her daughter and Jiraiya beat some sense into his head. After Kushina told her son and Ryu about the CRA, he nearly had a heart attack, as did Jiraiya, due to the fact that his godson got to live everyman's dream. They was skeptic at first but realized that it would help restore their clans, so they agreed to it. That and Kushina and Scherzer wanted lots of grandkids whom they can spoil. Naruto knew that Kasumi and Momiji had feelings for him, and when he told Ayane about it, she said that she'd agree with letting Kasumi and Momiji join his clan and he would tell them about it. And includes her. Kushina told the girls about she had a friend in Konoha. About 2 or 3 at least. Since she can't risk herself for sending a letter to her friend since they had talk about they were in academy years ago in Konoha. So she sent one, secretly gave it to the fire daimyo to her friend, so that way to keep themselves touch until the time came. Of course she came up with this wild proposition. The girls were curious about. So Kushina replied that during the time she was 6 months pregnant with Naruto and Tasuki, she actually came up with the bizarre idea of wanting her daughter marry Naruto. Of course her friend laughed because Kushina thought her was going to give birth to a girl. That made surprised for the girls talking about Naruto's friend. They told Kushina that she had pink hair. That triggers Kushina to smile for she know a person had a pink hair too. The girls questions that Kushina actually brought up the idea of the two of them marrying. Kushina was so persistent too. Kept telling her friend that her son and her daughter would make the most adorable and beautiful babies. That only made Naruto blushed about his mother did made a unofficial arranged marriage. He did told her that she did had a pink hair is true. Since Ayane didn't mind. So, Kushina told him she haven't sent a letter for a while after the twins were born. Since she can't risk it to send Anathit, so she'll keep in touch with her. The next morning Naruto opened his cerulean blue eyes to see Ayane sleeping on top of him with her head on his chest. He smiles at the sight, hearing her snore lightly with her hands on his chest. He brushes a strand of hair from her face and she stirs for a while. She opens her ruby red eyes and sees Naruto grinning at her. Morning Tenshi. He greet and she smiles back. Morning Naruto-kun. She replied and moves up to kiss him on the lips. Naruto sat up with Ayane on his lap and deepens the kiss. Ayane does the same and wraps her arms around his neck. Naruto had both of his hands on her hips and pulls he even closer and Ayane brushes her hands through his soft blonde hair. Naruto then moves his hand downward and slips it under her shirt and caresses her stomach, making her shiver slightly. Naruto manages to get his other hand under her shirt and lifts it up revealing her well-toned torso, which she gained from training. Ayane removes her lips from his and a sly smile appears on her face. Naruto, if you wanted me to remove my clothing, all you had to do was ask. She replied only to giggle when he tickles her sides and stomach. Be careful what you wish for Tenshi. I might do more than strip you of your clothes if you keep teasing me. He says getting a blush from the girl. Naruto removes his hands from her hips and she gets off his lap and pulls her shirt down. Should we get ready for our morning run? He asked and she nods. Naruto went into his closet and pulled out a blue sleeveless shirt, gray pants, and a pair of blue and white running shoes, as he wore the same hidden blade bracer for precaution. Ayane went to her room to change and put on a purple tank top, gray jogging pants, and a pair of purple and white shoes. After that, they walk out of the compound and stretch for a while. Naruto pulls out an iPod and puts the headphones in his ears and starts playing Agony by Kodoko. Ayane pulls out hers as well and they start running around the quiet village. After running for 45 minutes they stopped near a park to relax. Naruto was drinking out of his water bottle, when he noticed a red head and a teenager making out on a bench. It was Ryu and Tasuki. Tasuki was sitting on his lap with her arms wrapped around his neck and Ryu had his wrapped around her waist. Ryu was wearing a black sleeveless shirt, black jogging pants, and white running shoes and Tasuki was wearing a red tank top with red jogging pants, and red and white running shoes. Naruto saw this and a grin appeared on his face. He looks over at Ayane who was drinking water out of her bottle and taped her on the shoulder. She turned her to see a grinning Naruto pointing in a different direction and she turns her head in that direction, only to spit her water out of her mouth and her eyes as wide as dinner plates when she saw Tasuki and Ryu making out. Naruto then shunsons behind the bench they were making out on and stood up. Ahem. He coughed out and the two froze and opened an eye to see Naruto smirking at them. You two don't you realize that this is a park, right, and kids play here? He asked. Ryu and Tasuki jump off of the bench and looking away with their faces glowing red. Ayane appeared next to Naruto with her arms wrapped around his and was smiling at them. So this is what you two do early in the morning. What would your mother say if she saw this, Ryu-san? Ayane asked and Ryu glares at them while they grinned. Speaking of mothers, Ka-san didn't come home last night. Naruto said, think about that subject. Suki's eyes widen, but then grin appears on her face. I bet that she has stayed with Arashi-san. She replied while Naruto groaned. Figures. Why doesn't she just marry the guy, for crying out loud, instead of sneaking out of the compound when we're gone? He asked. Kushina has been seeing Arashi the past 4 years. Naruto was shocked that his mother was dating again, but she did like the man and decided to give him a chance, but he did threaten the Sotaicho of the Anbu that if he broke her heart he'd break all 4 of his limbs, castrate him with a heated up kunai, and throw him into the volcanic mouth of Mt. Fuji, causing the man to twitch at the threat. Tsuki snickers at this and wraps an arm around Ryu's. Well, at least they're not at the compound doing that, she emphasized while the blonde's eye twitches and he shudders at the thought of his mother doing that with Arashi. After finishing their morning run, eating breakfast at a restaurant, and going home to change, Naruto, Ryu, and Tsuki were summoned to the Dragon Tower by the Rukage. Dragon Tower . Naruto, Ryu, and Tsuki were now in the tower where Kushina was glaring at the piles of paperwork she had and had a tick mark on her head. I swear if that woman comes in here with more paperwork, I'm gonna pull a Kyuubi. She roared in her mind while a chibi form of her burned the mountain of paperwork with a fire jutsu and then did a victory sign with her hands while grinning like a Cheshire cat. The 3 dragon nin's sweat dropped at their cage's expression, as did the Anbu hidden in the shadows. Naruto coughed, getting his mother's attention, and he speaks up. You wanted to see us, Rukage-sama? Naruto asked and she nodded. Yes. I got your report from the Cage Bunshin shadow clone you sent yesterday, and I want to congratulate you all for dealing with the Yakuza crime lords and reducing their activities in Kaminari no Kuni. Kushina stated. The Lightning Daimyo thanking you all for dealing with them and is sending the bounties on their heads to your accounts. With a small smile appeared on her face while they nod. Now, I know you just got back from the 6-month mission, but you and Team Tenchi have been requested for a joint mission from the daimyo of Nami no Kuni, Land of Wave. She stated while Naruto blinks at this. What is the mission, Rukage-sama? Naruto asked. Apparently the country's economy and trade has been dwindling for the last 3 years. As you know, Nami no Kuni is a port country and is very vital to the other villages for trading both imports and exports to other countries. A man by the name of Gato is the one responsible for this. She explained, getting wide eyes from them. Gato. The man who owns Gato's shipping company. What does he have to do with this? Tsuki asked about that man and his company. Kushina pulls out a file and places it on her desk. She opens it, revealing the picture of a short man wearing a black suit. While Gato does own a shipping company that deals with imports and exports, he is in no shape or form a good businessman. She states. According to our spy network, Gato is also works in the criminal underworld and is responsible for transporting illegal items like drugs, weapons, and even slaves. He has worked with the Yakuza in sending them their items, and not get caught. He's also responsible for the murders of a lot of important people in Wave and also known for selling women and young girls to whore houses or his personal brothel. She replied as she said those words with venom and was twitching. Suki's brow twitched as did Naruto's and Ryu's. I want you and Team Tenchi to head to Nami no Kuni and find his hideout. Find as much evidence as you can on him, get access to his bank accounts, and when you get the chance, kill him, but be careful. He also hires bandits and Missen Nin to do his dirty work, and I'm positive he'll hire the Black Spider clan. She said, getting nods from them as they started to leave. Now if only I knew how to get rid of all this damned paperwork. I have a lunch date, damn it. She said while anime tears fell from her face and the sweat drops on the hidden ANBU's faces grew bigger. Naruto's head popped out the door and I smiled. Have you considered using Cage Bunshin, Ka-san? Ero Sennin stated that the knowledge they gain after being disappeared is sent to the user. He said and disappears. Kushina's eyes were the size of dinner plate and her jaw was on the ground. So that's how Minato got all that paperwork done. Minato, you blonde jerk, if I find a jutsu that brings the dead back to life, I'll kick your She yelled furiously as her eyes glowed red and streams of fire shoot out of her nostrils and mouth, scaring her Anbu who were praying to Kami that she doesn't take it out on them. Naruto and Tasuki heard this and snickered at how their Ka-san reacted. Pops better hope she doesn't find a bring back the dead jutsu or he is so screwed. Naruto stated. While in heaven Minato feel a shiver go up his spine, wondering who it was he was fearing right now. Naruto, Ryu, and Tasuki were walking towards the entrance to the Hayabusa village. When they got there, they saw Team Tenshi, Ayane, Kasumi, and Momiji. Ayane was wearing a purple and silver whole-body jumpsuit with flower decorations along with several pieces of armor and a black garb over her head. Strapped to her sides were her Fuma Kodachi. Kasumi wore a blue and white kunoichi outfit with a wakizashi with a golden tassel strapped behind her back called Hikari no Hanane, the flower root of the light. She also had long copper hair and brown eyes. Momiji wore a red and white shrine maiden battle outfit with black ninja boots and strapped to her back was a naginata called Tenryu, Heavenly Dragon. Naruto sees the three and a grin was on his masked face. Hey Tenshis, he called out. The three girls look at him, and made Momiji and Kasumi had blushes on their face seeing him here, while Ayane smiled. So, my Oni-san and Momiji still have a thing for Naruto-kun. I wonder how they will react when he tells them that he can have more than one wife, due to the clan laws. I'm positive they won't mind since Naruto-kun treats us all like equals. She thought. And hopefully if he'll find her of what he's looking for in. Hey, so are you guys ready for the mission to Nami no Kuni? Momiji asked for prepared and they all nod. Naruto bites his thumb and performs a few seals and slams his palm into the ground. Kuchiyoshi no Jutsu, summoning. He called and in a puff of smoke, two horse-sized dragons appear. The first one was bronze-colored and had reddish-brown eyes. The second one was forest green-colored with yellow slitted eyes. Hey Kaiser, Senryu, can take us to Nami no Kuni? He asked and the two dragons nod and puffs of smoke escape from their nose. Of course, Naruto-san. Hop on, Kaiser said as he and his brother lowered their bodies. Naruto, Kasumi, and Ayane hopped on Kaiser's back while Ryu, Tasuki, and Momiji hopped on Senryu's back. Hold on tight, Senryu said when he spread his wings as does his brother. Kasumi wrapped her arms around Naruto's waist and blushed when she pressed her body against his back and Momiji wrapped her arms around Kasumi's. The dragons then shot up into the sky, and the squeals of Kasumi, Ayane, Momiji, and Tasuki were heard as the dragons soared into the sky. While the dragons were soaring in the sky, Kasumi and Momiji were thinking about Naruto. He was cute, funny, and treated everyone equal unlike some who come from powerful clans. Most boys his age were perverts to girls like them, but Naruto on the other hand, wasn't. While he would tease them on certain occasions, he doesn't take it far. How are you two doing back there? Naruto asked as he looks over his shoulder behind at the Tenshi sisters. Fine. They both replied at the same time. He then smiles at them and turns back around not noticing the blush on Kasumi's face, but Ayane did and smirks. Meanwhile Ryu looks down to see an island with what looked like a bridge being fixed. Also, it's unfinished. That must be Nami no Kuni, Wave Country. Naruto. We're above our objective. He yells out. Naruto hears him and nods. Alright Kaiser, I need you and your brother to land on that island. Naruto orders and the dragon nods. Kaiser heads downward and his brother follows. As they pass the clouds, they see an island that's mostly forest. The dragons land in a clearing and the two team jump off their backs. Thanks you two, and give my regards to Oyabun, boss. Naruto appreciated getting a nod from the dragons and they disappear in a puff of smoke. They then pulled scrolls from the seals on their arms and in a puff of smoke, several duffel bags appeared and they contained their camping supplies. After setting up the camp and setting traps around the area, Naruto holds his arm out and on it was a seal. He once again bites his thumb and presses down on it. The seal glows and in a puff of smoke a container appears. He opens it and inside were 6 radios with comm links connected to them. Alright guys, here are the radios and comm links. He stated as he pulls one out and attaches it to the left side of his belt and places the comm link earpiece on his ear. His team and also Team Tenchi got theirs. Okay, this is what we'll do. Team Tenchi, you all are heading to the closest town you can find and scout the area, and see if you can get info on Gato's location. As Team Akuma, we'll be setting up traps and kill any missing nin, black spider nin, or bandits we find in the forest. Naruto said in an authority tone, getting nods from them as they got serious. We'll be scouting and looking for info for at least 3 hours, then we'll head back here and set up camp. Also Team Tenchi, if you can henge into civilians to gain info and steer clear of any shady characters. It's possible that they're Gato's spies, but if you see one alone, capture and interrogate him. Naruto stated and they nod. Alright, we have our objectives. Now move out. Naruto exclaimed and the 6 vanish from the scene. Konohagakure . Hiruzen Sarutobi was not enjoying his day right now in this village. After the event in Tetsu no Kuni, Konoha's economy was not in the best of shape for the last 3 years, due to the fact that they had to give half of the village's worth of money to the Hayabusa village and Kushina's clan, not to mention the 20 high-ranking missions and jutsus for retribution. The council was very upset about it -1 as well, and plus a screeching purple hair banshee furious for having their fortune low, and when the clan heads want to asked about it. Hiruzen told them to thank Danzo and his drones for their actions against the Rukage. As the War Hawk wasn't seen at the meetings for a while, which Sarutobi was thankful for. And include the same blonde woman was secretly pleased and admitted about it of how her friend did. That, she was disappointed at the so-called professor, and also as a friend of Minato besides her husband. She did honored her best friend's wish. Since then, the Konoha was now the shadow of its former self. Just as the orders received from Kushina requested to the fire daimyo had publicly executed most the few civilians that abused, despise and assault the true heir of the most powerful clan in the shinobi village, that interfered the foreign ninja clan affairs. And rest of the shinobis were devoted from Jonin or Chunin into Genin, or Eternal Genin eternally. Leaving few remains for honored the late Yondaimi's wish. Also few of the Anbu had disregard the fourth, S wish. By sending all of them to Ibiki to interrogate after the suspended, or devoted, or execute. It was the arrogant villagers of Konoha to blame for they didn't realize the resemblance, not Naruto did the mess he made from them, for all the rest of shinobi forces is reduced, for disregard the late 4th Hokage's wish that cripples the village. They were extremely low on cash as the amount of money they had to hand over to Hayabusa was extremely large for a village. Without the Konoha's funds they earned to rebuild the village from the jobs and missions, they're liquidated and collapse, soon. It will take years to earn it after taking D ranks for capturing a certain cat, will earn some money and more fresh out genins, and C rank missions for escorts and errands. But Konoha had less highest ranks for now, only 1B and or a rank they received each a 2-week or 14 days from the fire daimyo for salary. So, he gave Konoha a 15.5% from the salary. And even the matron from the orphanage is fired from her job and executed in public, replaced by a same certain blonde woman and husband that take over, and had her daughter to do the rest. Also, they had newborn son, brother to raised. I admired the rarest story of Narusaku, Land of Ice. A certain pink hair will had a brother. I'll had this story will had that she will had a sibling. After the foolish mistakes they made, the villagers were completely downfall for their ignorance and fallibility. After all, the village won't be the same with peaceful. Without their Jinchuriki and their new allies to formed. The village of Konoha will be the easy target of other hidden villages like Iwa. Their military power and village economic is weakened. Lastly, each year, October 10th after the retribution, they tried to form a festival after the fire daimyo gave Konoha's half of the village's worth of currencies to the Hayabusa village and Uzunami clan, and as well as the jutsu and mission scrolls the Rukage wanted for retribution. Also turns out the fire daimyo decline and terminate the festival that held in Konoha that many travelers that came by were disregard. An, shortened for Uzumaki and Namikaze clan, inspired the idea by Path of Broken Fox, by Killjoy the Demonic Phantom, and Triforce Guardian. So it's completely low of funds for requirements. Now the so-called Kyubi festival is over, gone, forever, permanently. So they cannot enjoy themselves because they disregard the late Yondaime Hokage's wish. It's because of that, they shouldn't listened. But nothing can't go back to way it was. Now standing before him was Team 7 and 8 with the Jonin senseis being with Kakashi Hatake and Kurenai Yuhi along with their students. After years passed that they earned their currency with D or C rank mission, only 5 or less higher rank mission that have after Kushina had Konoha retributed. With Team 7, it was Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Sai. Led by Kakashi. And Team 8, Tracker Team, it was Shino Aburame, Kiba Inuzuka, and Hinata Hyuga. Led by Kurenai. They were currently standing before their leader who spoke up. Okay. Since both Team 7 and Team 8 have completed the exact amount of missions, you'll be doing a joint C-rank mission. He announced and the Jonin sensei's eyes widen. Now don't worry, it's only an escorting mission. You'll be escorting Tazuna, the bridge builder of Nami no Kuni. He answered. Sasuke however was scowling because he won't be able to fight any strong ninja. Great. We have to spend our time with the king of pricks. Kiba mumbles and gets bopped on the head by Kurenai. Back in the forests of Nami no Kuni . The sounds of screaming and metal clashing were heard. Naruto and Team Akuma had ambushed a bandit camp that was near the shorelines. The body of a dead bandit hit the ground with his eyes rolled into his sockets and had 2 shuriken embedded into his skull. Blood seeped out of his mouth and into the sand. Ryu had sidestepped from being stabbed in the torso by a bandit's spear. He sweep kicks the man off his feet and then grabbed the spear and stabs it into his heart, killing the bandit instantly. Naruto was cutting down bandits left and right. One tried to get him in his blind spot but Naruto substituted himself with another bandit who was gutted with a broadsword. Naruto then vivisected the man in half and blood sprayed everywhere. Tsuki had one in a stranglehold and snapped his neck. She then shoves him away and stabs a charging bandit in the kidneys with her kodachi. After that she performs a few hand seals. Kaden. Karyu Enden. Fire release. Fire dragon flame bullet, she exclaimed and shoots flames out of her mouth and 5 bandits were engulfed in flames and watched as they screamed out in pain and agony. Naruto brought his right arm back with his index and ring finger out and yelled. Futon. K's no Yeba. Wind release. Wind blade. As he does a slashing motion with arm. An invisible blade of wind strikes down the last group of bandits and they are cut down into piles of limbs. Naruto looks around at the sight and grunts. This is the 4th camp we hit. He muttered and Ryu nods as he wipes the blood off his blade with a flick of his wrist. At least this one didn't have any women in cages. Tsuki castrated and slaughtered the poor fools. Ryu commented as he saw Tsuki swipe the blood off her kodachis. Okay. Let's reduce this camp to ashes. I'm pretty sure they do root checks on the camps. Naruto said and they nod. The 3 perform Kaden Jutsu and incinerate everything. After that, he summoned Shinku performed a water jutsu and sprayed the ashes off the sand. They then leap away back in the forest, after the water dragon returned to the dragon summoning world. With Team Tenchi . Kasumi, Ayane, and Momiji had found a town and were watching from the rooftops. The place was in simple terms a dump. The stores barely had any food, people were in rags sleeping in alleys and in cardboard boxes and the children looked malnourished. Kasumi frowned at the sight she witnessed before her eyes. This is terrible. What kind of person would do this to a country? She asked. Only a scum, like Gato. I see mostly of the children, but hardly any women or teenage girls. That bastard is probably selling them to brothels or as his personal slaves. What a sick fool. Ayane answered, and Momiji clenches her fists. If we capture this man alive, I'm gonna cut off his beads with a heated kunai and then shove them in a place where the sun doesn't shine. Momiji states, and they nod on agreement. Ayane then looks around and sees a man wearing a clean brown suit entering a building and narrows her eyes. I think I found our spy, she said, getting their attention. Where? Ayane. Kasumi asks, and she points to a bar. He just entered that bar. He was wearing a brown suit that was clean. Now tell me, what kind of person wears a suit like that in a town full of poor people? It's possible he's a spy, she explained, and the two look at the bar he entered. So what should we do? Naruto said that if we see one, alone, we should capture him. Momiji says, and Ayane had think about it. I could go in disguised as a Yakuza. Ayane suggests, and Kasumi looks at her and nods. Okay, but let's wait until the sun sets. She replies. 3 hours later. As the man in the brown suit walked out of the bar looking around, walking through the dirty streets until he hears a fist. Hey you, in the suit. A masculine voice called out. The man turned around to see a man in a light purple suit with silver hair and black eyes. Who are you? He asked. My name's Mayuri Kusagi. I'm a Yakuza. Mayuri. Greet with proclaimed, and the man in the brown suit raised an eyebrow. And, he asked, I used to work for Kogira Sosuke, a crime boss for the group in Kaminari no Kuni. Mayuri answered, and got the man's interest. Really? I heard he was killed by a group of ninja. He states, and he nods. Yes, he did, and I have a new boss that's interested in your boss's operation in this country. Mayuri said, and the man raised an eyebrow. Really? And how exactly did your boss come across this information? He asks, and Mayuri smirks. My boss had eyes and ears everywhere. He answer before asking. How about we discuss this in a more secluded place? What is your name, by the way? It's Hamada Toshi. Hamada answered. Well then, Hamada Toshi, follow me. Mayuri said, insisted, and they walk away and enter into an empty building. The door closes and Hamada raised and at Mayuri, who just stood in front of him smirking. Well, what is it you wanted to discuss? He asked. Kasumi appears behind him, and before the man could react, she covered his mouth and nose with a handkerchief that was coated with sedative. Hamada's eyes widen and struggles for a while, but then he blacks out and collapses. Well, that was easy. Mayuri said in a feminine voice and dispersed in a puff of smoke, revealing a smirking Ayane. Momiji appears out of the shadows also, while Kasumi starts to tie the guy's arms and legs with ninja wire. Good work, Ayane, Kasumi said to her sister for her acted. Thanks. Have you two ran into any of Gato's henchmen? She asked. I took care some of them, but there were no black spider nin. Momiji stated. Gato's probably using them as security guards. Kasumi answered. Ayane pulls an Anbu mask on, as does Kasumi and Momiji. 30 minutes later. Hamada wakes up and sees himself that his arms and legs tied up. His eyes widen in fear. Oh shit, he says to himself, but then freaks out when 3 kunoichi wearing animal mask appear in front of him. Who are you? He asked, shaken. That's none of your concern. Kasumi replied before asking. You're gonna give us some info on your boss Gato or else? Or else what? Hamada asks, trying to act brave, but then Ayane pulls out a kunai. Or else, we'll cut those beads of yours and then heal them with our medic jutsu and repeat the process. She said with a menacing voice and aims the sharp end at his crotch. Hamada pales and then speaks up. Okay, I'll talk. I swear I won't lie to you about the info I'm giving you. He replied, not wanting to go through that. For your sake, you better not lie to us. Momiji said and stabs her naginata in the ground, making the man whimper. With Team Akuma . Naruto, Tasuki, and Ryu were leaping through the trees until Naruto stopped, as did his teammates. What is it, Naruto? Ryu asked, wondering. Naruto motioned them to leap into the higher parts of the trees, and they did. When they landed on the tallest branch, Naruto spoke up. The cage bunshin I sent out earlier spotted some Konoha nin with the bridge builder. He answered and their eyes widen. How many? Tasuki asked about them. 8 of them, 2 of them are Jonin and the other 6 are Genin. They must be the senseis of the Genin squads. One of them happens to be Sharingan Kakashi and Genjutsu Mistress Kurenai. Naruto answered and their eyes widen even more. Until Naruto sighed, letting his teammates wondered. What's wrong? Tasuki wondered. With Tasuki was curious about her brother's behavior. According to my clone's info, she's there. That made more wider from their eyes. You mean, Ryu is about realized, getting a nod from the blonde. He and Tasuki knew he had his first friend. So, what should we do? Tasuki asked. I mean, you are going to see her if something happens to her. We'll stand clear of them for now. And the second yes, I will see if she's there. Naruto says. Ryu places his hand on his comm link and speaks up. Naruto, Team Tenchi has captured one of Gato's spies and are getting intel on the man's security and location. Apparently the man is after the bridge builder and has sent some missing nin from Kiri to deal with him. He informed. Any idea who they are? Naruto asked. The demon brothers and demon of the mist Zabuza Momochi. Ryu answered. Suki's eyes widen at the name of the demon of the mist. Damn, an A-class missin nin. This just complicates our mission. He's one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. She states and Naruto nods. Okay. This is what we'll do. We'll keep an eye on the Konoha nin and the bridge builder. If they get into trouble, we'll assist them. Ryu, tell Ayane that once they're done getting info off the man, wipe his memory and head back to the camp to rest. Naruto said determined. Ryu nods and informs them to wipe the man's memories and head back to the camp and rest. After that, Team Akuma saw the group of Konoha nin walking through a path and saw a puddle which they passed by. So, they have an Inuzuka, an Aburame, and a Hyuga. They're probably a tracker squad. Then there's the other team. An Uchiha and 2 who are unknowns. Ryu comment. Before he noticed one of them felt a strong chakra signature conceal her. Something strange about this one. Tasuki scoffs when they passed by the puddle and wondered. Are you kidding me? Didn't they notice that genjutsu? For Kami's sakes, what do they teach the ninja in their village? Before she noticed one of them too. As for this girl, is she the one Nisan is talking about? Getting a nod from Ryu. That was when the demon brothers leapt out of the puddle and wrapped their chains around a shocked Kakashi and Kurenai. With a tug of their gauntlets, they ripped the Jonins apart and went after the Genin and bridge builder. Sai managed to stop their pursuit by stopping their chains with a tanto, and separated it from their gauntlets. Gezo charged at the bridge builder and Sakura was trembling as he swung his poison claw at her. Sasuke decided to show off and tried to strike the nin with a roundhouse kick, but the missing nin blocked the kick and swatted the boy aside like a fly. Sakura could trying to do to defend herself. She tried to fight back. Time to die, little girl. Gezo says as he continues to charge at her. Sai frowns and then appears in front of Sakura to block the claw with his tanto. Kami, you are useless, flat chest. Sai stated as he kicked the nin in the chest, making him skid back a couple of feet. Letting herself a shame. Suga. Piercing Fang Kiba cries out and Gezo's eyes widen when he sees a spinning cyclone heading for him. He sidesteps the attack only to cry out in pain when Hinata strikes him in the back with a Juken strike and collapses. Brother. Why you little? Maizu growls out and gets ready to charge at her only to feel his body getting weak. Why do I feel so weak? He wondered but then looks at his arms and sees black beetles crawling all over him. Shino appears behind him and backhands the ninja in the temple, knocking him out. You shouldn't never take your eyes off your opponent, no matter how weak they appear. Shino states and tilts his sunglasses up. That was when Kakashi and Kurenai appeared. Excellent work team. You managed to knock them out without our assistance. And you, Sasuke, you shouldn't have tried to show off. Kakashi states. As the Uchiha stood up shaking the cobwebs out of his head. Don't berate me, berate my useless teammate. He mumbles and Sakura flinches at being called useless. She mentally growled. Kakashi frowns at his response. She actually tried to defend the bridge builder, and if it wasn't for Sai, they'd both be dead. Until he'll face Tazuna with a nervous expression. Anyways, Tazuna care to explain why these missing nin came after you? He asked in a voice that meant he was serious and the man gulped. Back in the trees Naruto, Tasuki, and Ryu saw the short battle. Naruto was frown about that spoiled Uchiha scold his teammate. Ryu had a same boat about the Uchiha for being a show-off, and Tasuki was disappointed. Well, at least one team seems competent. The Uchiha was pathetic. Showing off like that, what a joke. He's probably the runt of his family. Ryu comment and Tasuki agreed with a nod. Yes, that was very pathetic. No wonder the entire clan was killed. They were probably weak, and also. She said. Naruto nodded and stated looking at one of the genins, stated. Yes. And includes her. She had tried to fight back, but something felt strange within her, but she is keeping a secret from her team. I sense a surpassed seal that prevents her without suspicious about her true self as well. Ryu nodded about Naruto's statement. Yup. She did keep secrets. But more importantly, looks like the three dragon nin vanished. As the two squads were leaving, Kakashi was looking over at the tree. Kurenai seeing this and asked, "What is it, Kakashi? We're being watched the whole time." He stated and her eyes widen. "Do you think they were ninja working for Gato?" She asked. "I doubt it. If they wanted to attack, they would done it by now, and killed Tazuna." He replied. "So what should we do?" Kurenai asked. "Nothing, for now. They don't seem to be interested in us, so they're not a threat at the moment." Kakashi stated and she nods. So after that, they went to join up with their squads. The Leaf Ninjas were now riding a boat to cross the ocean to get to Wave Country. Until one of the team within her thoughts. "I wonder how is he? It's been 8 years we haven't seen each other for some time. Alright, now the glove is off, and sooner or later, I will not give up for myself, and then, I will find him, soon." When they got closer to the shore of Wave, they saw the biggest bridge that they had ever seen. "Okay. This is as far as I am going to take you. I already risked more than I had to, now get off," the boat driver said with fear in his voice. The group got off the boat and began to walk on the road heading to the client's house. As they walked, the mist seemed to get denser and denser. Sasuke felt something and to try to act cool threw a shuriken into the bush, getting the group into alert. They slowly walked towards the bush to find a white snow rabbit. "Wait a minute. Why is that rabbit's skin so white when it's spring? The skin of rabbits are always brown in the spring, not white," Sakura asked as they noticed the rabbit's snow-white skin and read about them in one of her books. The group looked at Sakura after looking at the rabbit and had the same thing going through their minds. When did Sakura was smart and stay sharp? Unlike she was a fangirl before her change of behavior. Kakashi thought, wondering. All will find out soon enough, or is it Mebuki-san is trying to say? So he decided to play along. Or do his shinobi part. Sakura's right. That's because the enemy was keeping it in a cage to use it for body switching. Which means the enemy is already here. Everyone, be on your guard. Kakashi added to Sakura's observation. Better look underneath on Sakura, after we. Suddenly they heard a whistling sound. Everyone get down, Kakashi yelled, as a giant sword came flying at them and almost took their heads off when they ducked. The sword was sent into a tree where a man stood on the hilt of it. "Well, look at who we have here, the copycat ninja and the Ice Queen of Konoha. No wonder my men were defeated," the man said. "Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the bloody mist. To think someone of your reputation is working for scum like Gato," Kakashi said as he got into his battle stance. Zabuza looks at him and shrugs, then said, "Well, it pays and that's all that matters. Now I will give you a chance. Give me the old man and I will let you all leave here alive." "You know, we can't do that," Kurenai said. "Very well. I guess you all will die here today. Zabuza says as he pulls his Zanbetu out of the tree and lands in the middle of the lake and performs a few hand seals. Ninpo. Kurigakur no Jutsu, ninja arts, silent mist technique. Zabuza said, and then the whole field was engulfed in a very thick mist. The genin guard Tazuna while Kakashi reveals his Sharinganai and Kurenai starts to perform some hand seals. What's going on? This mist is so thick. Sakura said. This isn't good at all. This technique is specialized for silent killing, which Zabuza was an expert of. You won't even know you're dead until you are. You guys better be careful. Kakashi explains, alerting them of a possible attack. The mist is getting thicker. Kiba said as he noticed it getting thicker. 8 choices. Zabuza started to say. Where is he? Sasuke asked. Did you know that there are 8 vital spots in the human body that if struck could spell instant death? Liver, lungs, spine, clavicle vein, neck, brain, kidneys, heart. Tell me little genin, which one of these spots do you want me to strike in order to kill you? Zabuza asked using his voice projection jutsu and scaring the genin. Not far from their location was Team Akuma, who was watching the battle from the trees. This should be interesting. Former Anbu versus former Anbu. They both have experience in their fields, but Zabuza apparently has the advantage when it comes to stealth. Naruto comment and Ryu looks at him. How so, Naruto? Ryu asked. Zabuza Momochi was a member of the assassination squad in Kiri's Anbu force. Naruto explained. He's a master of the silent kill jutsu. From what my mother told me, he's mastered it to the point to where all he needs to do is hear an irregular heartbeat or a twitch of your finger and you're dead. To pull something like that off takes a lot of skill. Not to mention he has high levels of water jutsu in his arsenal. That caused Ryu's eye widen in amazement. That is incredible. He could probably give some of the dragon nin a run for their money. Too bad he's a missin' nin. He'd make a good addition to our village. Ryu states. That was when they saw Zabuza kick Kakashi into the lake and the copy nin gets trapped in a Suiro no Jutsu, water prison technique. Kurenai ended up getting struck in the shoulder by his blade and was kneeling down clutching her bleeding shoulder in pain. Well, that was easy. I expected more from you, Kakashi and Kurenai. I guess you're nothing more than tree huggers. Once I kill the Genjutsu mistress, you brats are next. He comment and creates a dozen water clone. Run. Get Kurenai and the bridge builder out of here. Kakashi yelled out, but the 6 were frozen in fear. 4 water clones appear on every side of her with Kubikiri Hako raised and ready to cut her down. Sensei. Hinata cried out as she saw the blades come down at her in slow motion. Kurenai closes her eyes, waiting for her death. That was when a flash of silver was seen cutting down the clones and they stood still for a while. They then dispersed into water, shocking Zabuza. What the hell? Who did that? He yells out. I did, demon of the mist. Said a calm yet dark voice. That was when a 14-year-old male with wild blonde spiky hair wearing a deep blue and silver bodysuit with a face mask, arm guards and fingerless gloves appeared in front of Kurenai with Rukin drawn. Zabuza narrows his eyes at the newcomer. And who the hell are you, brat? He demanded while releasing ki on Naruto, who just shrugs it off. Me. I'm your executioner. Naruto proclaimed. As Naruto vanishes and appears beside a shocked Zabuza and a surprised Kakashi. Zabuza is suddenly hit in the side of the head by a roundhouse kick courtesy of Naruto and is sent flying away from the blonde. This right here forces the man to free Kakashi from the water prison. Kakashi was drenched in water and gasping for air. Zabuza skids in the water and glares at the blonde teenager. I don't know who you are, brat. But you're in the way of my job. I suggest you leave before I add your death to my list. He threatens, but Naruto scoffs. You don't scare me, demon of the mist. I have fought and killed ninjas that would make you look like a child, and as for being a demon. Ha, don't make me laugh. I have had encounters with the real thing and you, my friend, aren't a demon. You are merely a human with the title of one. He said determined, and Zabuza had a dark grin on his face. You have guts, kid. Too bad I have to spill them. Zabuza pulled his Zanbeitu out on his back. Naruto sheathes his blade and taps a seal on his gauntlet. It glows in a puff of smoke. A blade that seemed to be the same size as Zabuza's Kubikiri Hako, only this one was bronze-colored. The blade was wicked-looking, having razor-sharp carved edges on each side. The cross guard was curved also, and it had a long hilt that is used for a two-handed grip, and on the end of it was a red gem on the pommel. Naruto grabs the hilt and twirls it in his hand. Everyone's eyes, minus one with amazed, bulge out of their heads when they see this. How the hell does he do that? That sword must weigh over 100 pounds. Kiba yells out. Hinata runs towards her injured sensei and pulls out a small med kit with Sakura accompany her. Before look at Naruto that she notice a dragon symbol on his back. That must be sensei. Are you alright? She asked, and Kurenai looks at her student and Sakura and nods, but winces agony. Here, let me patch that injury, she said as she pulls out some healing cream and bandages. Then she and Sakura did learn first aid. Zabuza had a look of shock on his face when he was a kid, no older than 14, hoist a blade that heavy without even struggling. Like it. It's called Dabalaharo, and that kid was correct. This sword weighs over 100 pounds. But it is powerful enough to cut down trees and boulders like they were paper. In the hands of a master swordsman, however, it can create shockwaves that can cut half a city block. He explained. Zabuza looks at the blade and snorts. I'll admit, that's pretty impressive that you can lift a blade that heavy, but I doubt you can use it correctly. He comment. To be honest with you, Momochi, I don't really like using Zanbeitus because they lack speed and leave me open for my enemy to attack, unless I'm fighting a large enemy. I prefer my blades over this weapon. He referred. Hey, well, at least you admit that a blade of that size isn't suited for you. He said and hoists his blade over his shoulder. You misunderstood me. I said I didn't like using it. In my village, we are taught to use every single form of weapon from a Senbon to a Zanbeitu. That way our options aren't limited to a single weapon. Naruto states, and Zabuza lifts an eyebrow. And what village do you hail from, kid? He asked curiously. The only village that isn't a part of the elemental nations. The Hayabusa village. Naruto answered. Zabuza's eyes widen in surprise. The Hayabusa village. So you're a dragon nin? He asked, shocked about his shinobi is from the non-elemental village. Yes, I am, Naruto answered, as he then charges at the shocked man. Zabuza managed to get out of his shocked state long enough to block the attack. He lets out a grunt as the two Zanbeitu grind against each other. Kakashi manages to get back on land and helps Kurenai up after Hinata and Sakura finishes treating her wound, and the Rosette help her up before helping Kakashi. They then head back to the others and watched as Naruto engages with Zabuza in a sword fight. Anyo, Kurenai-sensei, what is a dragon nin? The Hyuga heiress asked. While Sakura watched the fight, Kurenai answer with explained. The dragon nin are the ninja who hailed from the Hayabusa village, the oldest non-elemental village that isn't a part of our country by one of them. It's a village from the west. The dragon nin are the shinobi of that village, and unlike each of the hidden village, that they don't have a ninja academy. That getting the shocking looks from everyone. Minus Sakura while watching the fight with Odd. For she overheard. No way. Their village doesn't have an academy. Then how do they become shinobi? Kiba asked that he sounded surprised. With Kakashi joined in and explained from Kiba's question. They are trained by their family members at a young age, and then they do simulations to see what they excel at and pair them up with other ninja. From what the boy said, they're trained in every single art of the ninja, even ones they don't major in. That is how they are able to succeed on missions. Dragon nin are known to be ruthless and show no mercy to their enemies. That made the genin had shocked looks on their faces. Minus one with slight nod understand about it. Sasuke was growling at the fact that someone on his age can be this strong. Because of his arrogance and selfish. He was so-called elite. He was always strong, not a foreign shinobi. Pray to Kami, you will never face a dragon nin on the opposite side, because if you do, you're dead. Even the genin of that village are known to be deadly to even Chunin level nin. Kakashi said since he has on occasions seen how dragon nin fight and they are not to be trifled with. Back at the fight. Zabuza had to duck from an overhead slash from Debliero. Naruto unleashes a kick towards his head and it makes contact with Zabuza's skull and sends him skidding back. He looks up at Naruto and charges at the blonde dragon. Their blades clash once again and they perform a series of slashes, stabs, and blocks. Zabuza performs a sword thrust at Naruto's chest. As the blonde leaps over the attack and lands on the other side. He then charges at Zabuza and attempts to stab him through the back, but the man blocks it with the flat end of his sword and is pushed back a little. Naruto then turns his blade upwards and pushed up using his strength. This forces Zabuza's guard to break and he is left open to an attack. Naruto performs a diagonal slash and vivisects Zabuza in half. Zabuza, however, dispersed into water. Impressive. He substituted himself with a water clone. I guess the swordsmen of the mist are competent after all. Naruto admitted. Zabuza rises from the water performing a series of hand seals and stops at the bird hand seal. Suryuden no Jutsu. Water release. Water dragon bullet. Zabuza cries out and a dragon made of water rises slowly out of the water roaring. Naruto performs a series of one-hand seals and stops at the tiger seal. Sujinheki. Water release. Water formation wall, he muttered and a large wall of water appears in front of him. The dragon collides with the wall of water but it soon overpowers the wall and breaks through it. Zabuza had a look of glee in his face as he saw his technique overpowered by the dragon nin. Not so great after all, are ya brat? He asks as he sees no sign of the blonde boy. He was about to gloat more but that was when a Naruto leapt out of the water behind the man. Zabuza's eyes widen in shock and he slowly turned around only to have three more Naruto appear on all four sides of the man performing hand seals. Kaden. Karyu Enden. Fire release. Fire dragon flame bullet. Suryuden. Raryuden. Lightning release. Lightning dragon bullet. Futon. Kaiseruden. Wind release. Wind dragon bullet. All four Narutos unleashed each elemental dragon and said dragon's head straight for a wide-eyed Zabuza. The four attacks collide and the combination of the elements causes an explosion that sends a large shockwave across the water and the land, causing everyone to cover their eyes. Damn it, Naruto ni. Did you have to put that much power into those attacks? Tsuki muttered herself with complaint a little. Zabuza is seen flying out of the explosion and onto land, crashing through a few trees and skids through the ground until he hits another three. The demon of the mist was battered, bruised, and had cuts and burns all over most of his body. That was when a volley of kunai strikes the man in several places and he cries out in pain. Naruto appears in front of the injured man with Ruken drawn. Damn, to think I'm being done in by a kid. He mumbles and Naruto raises his blade and prepares to bring it down on the man, until Zabuza's body jerks and he collapses onto the ground and remains motionless. His neck was struck by two Senbon needles. Naruto jumps back and looks around with his sword ready and seeing two people wearing hunter nin outfit and both of appeared to be male or female each of them. It had raven black hair that was tied into a bun and the other is white hair, a wolf oni mask, gray vest, white shirt, gray pants, black fingerless gloves, and sandals standing in the tree branch. Hunter nin. Naruto muttered they shunshin and appear next to the dead form of Zabuza. Thank you for weakening him, Dragon Nin. We've been hunting him for some time. The raven hair said. Naruto narrows his eyes at the two and keeps a firm grip on his blade. Is that so? Then go on ahead, behead him and burn the body. He stated and they tense up. Unless of course, you two are not actual Hunter Nin, and you are playing the role of one to save him. Naruto states. That was when a barrage of white needles flew right for him and he leaps to the side. The Hinter Enin with the white hair threw another barrage of white needles from its fingers and Naruto once again leaps back to avoid them. Let's get out of here, the other two are coming. he suggested, and the raven-haired girl nodded. They shunshin away with the body of Zabuza while Naruto sighs and sheathes his blade. Ryu and Tasuki appear beside Naruto and look around. They got away. Tasuki asked and Naruto nods. Damn. Oh well, with the injuries you gave him, he shouldn't be active for a while. Getting a nod from Ryu, Naruto turns his head to see the Konoha nin heading towards their direction. Before seeing someone laying his eyes at her. Wonder what they want? Ryu asked and Naruto shrugged. Don't know, don't care. They're not our problem. Let's head back to the camp. Naruto said before rolled his eyes side, but he'd at the same girl. I'll see you soon. And they shunshin away, leaving Kakashi, Kurenai, and the others wondering what they were doing in Nami no Kuni. With a certain pink hair hold her hands on her chest. That